Well, First War experience was the key experience of his life. Everything later referred back to that. I got to know Tubby through my father. My father was one of the soldiers during the First War who spent a night at Talbot House on his way home on leave in, I think, February 1916. And then when Tubby, after the war, started a Talbot House in London, Talbot House Mark I, he called it, in good military fashion. My father was one of the people who lived in that house and lived there until he was married in 1926.
You could see how charismatic he was, how in his 30s, when he came back from Belgium, how he'd been the innkeeper at Talbot House, how he'd managed to get people to do all sorts of things. And when he got back, this idea of Talbot House, Toc Age, was burning in him. And I think with a lot of people, he was able to enthuse, encourage, and enable them to give him houses around the country, which he set up as hostels. When we were over in Belgium, he would take us out and he would talk about that battle and that ridge and that particular set of trenches. And he would stop at a cemetery and we'd get out and we'd walk down many rows of the Commonwealth war graves. And he'd stop and he said, "Ah, Charlie." And he'd salute. He'd stand in front of the grave and he'd say, "Charlie." For our benefit, standing there, he would talk to Charlie, but he would be introducing you to Charlie, what Charlie did and how he died and why. And maybe Charlie had been into Talbot House a number of times, and that was his way. And then he'd bring himself up and he'd walk on and he'd find somebody else. It was very private and yet very personal, very intimate. But he knew that he was talking to you, and we did that on a number of graves around there.